Hello, welcome to Catholic Life, ordinary people with extraordinary faith. I'm Deacon Jody Moscona. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about the foster village. What is that? To talk about that, I have two great guests today, Shayna Landry and Amy LeJeune. Did I get it right?
LeJeune.
LeJeune.
I'll go by anything.
Camp LeJeune, that's a military.
There you go.
Got it. Good. Welcome. Glad y'all are with us today.
Thanks for having us.
So let's first start by talking a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get to the village. How's that?
Sounds great.
Okay. So I hear y'all are really not friends.
I don't know.
Just kidding. Just kidding. These are really great friends, and they've come together with a great project. But let's talk about each other in the background first. Amy first. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Lafayette. My husband moved here with his job, so we came here, had a big house, and decided that we would take in some children that needed a home. So we became foster parents, and it's been a wild ride since. So
great. I want to talk about the fostering aspect of it in just a minute, but tell us a little bit about yourself, Shayna.
So my name is Shayna Landry. I'm from Walker, Louisiana. I am a civil designer, coastal engineering for a local firm, and I have adopted twice from foster care.
Okay, so let's talk about foster care just generally, okay? Because we had the First Lady on here a while back to talk about some of the initiatives, how it falls under the Department of Children and Family Services, and that's kind of like the organizational part. You guys are kind of in the front line, you know, so you kind of know a little bit more about it. So let's talk about how do children wind up in foster care? Just, I know there's a lot of different ways, but give us some of them.
a lot of times it's if the parents have been incarcerated. Here, the majority of the time is drug addiction, neglect, or several different reasons.
Or if they're homeless or can't provide a suitable home for the child.
So what happens is the state takes the child? Is that what happens?
First, they're identified as a family that's at risk. Sometimes the children are removed pretty quickly. Sometimes they're also given a chance to keep the children. So the biological parents are given a case plan and could be considered a family services case and try to correct whatever they're struggling with.
So when I was working for the Attorney General's office, we had cases where parents were, the children were taken from the parents and the parents were trying to get them back. And it would be one of these situations where sometimes even the parents didn't know that they were bad for the kids, you know, because they're in a difficult situation themselves.
Yeah.
Is that what is that kind of where?
A lot of times it's generational. We see that, that it's not just the children who are in severe need, it's the parents, because they may have been foster children themselves, or maybe they should have been. So they don't know any better or have the resources or know how to get the resources that they need to get better or do better.
Right. So for whatever reason, one of the cases that I remember was a child was, he showed up at daycare and they saw that the kid, something was wrong with him, and they thought it might have been an abusive situation, so they reported it. I guess there are kind of mandatory reporters.
Correct, yes.
And those people have to report certain things, and when those get reported, that winds up being a case for Children and Family Services?
It depends. They do an investigation, and then after that investigation, they decide whether to pursue whatever
So it goes
case
to investigation first, so they're
Correct.
investigators. Okay, all right. Now, when investigation's going on, do the kids are ever taken away because it's so abusive? Like it's an emergency and so they take them, or does it have to go through a court process?
I think it's
Do y'all
a special
know?
circumstance for each one.
Yeah, every case is different.
Everyone's
Absolutely.
different? Okay. But
They're not going to leave them in a severely abusive environment, no.
right. So what happens is kids wake up one morning and they're being pulled away from their house.
Correct.
And it's like is there no warning? They just, and so now they're off with some state employee to be sent somewhere, and that somewhere is usually a foster home.
Yeah.
And that's where kids wind up without the things they need because they were scooped up without being able to take clothes, toys, books, whatever they need. Am I kind of reading
Correct,
it right?
if they had those things to begin with.
Oh, if they had it to begin with. So,
or whatever they show up with may not be suitable to keep with the child, so it may just need to be thrown away or whatever.
okay. So where we're heading is you guys are going to fill the gap and supply some of that stuff. But before we get there, how did you wind up getting to realize that you needed to provide how did you become aware that this was a need?
Well, whenever I became a foster parent, I was so excited. You know, you have to go through classes to become certified. And so we went through those classes, and then we waited to hear back if we had become certified. We got an email that said, "Congratulations, you're officially certified by the state of Louisiana." And then an hour later, we got a phone call for a 4-year-old boy to be dropped off and a 3-month-old little girl.
Wait a minute, wait.
Yeah.
So you get certified, and 1 hour later, not only one kid, but 2 kids?
Yeah. And I had no biological children, so it was going from 0 kids to 2. And so, of course, I was excited. You know, this is what we've been prepared for. And I'm in a neighborhood full of families, so ran next door to my neighbor. We're getting this little boy and this little girl. And she looked at me and she's like, "Okay, great. Well, do you have anti-colic bottles? Do you have a bassinet? Do you have," you know, and she just kept on listing things on this list. And I was like, "Wait, I need those things?" I had no clue. I had a bed, I had a crib. So thankfully, you know, those wonderful people stepped up and helped to guide me through that first week with those children. And I think Shayna kind of realized the same thing, being a single mom. And
yeah, so both of my girls were adopted from care as I was single. And mine was a little bit different from Amy, as in I was not a certified foster parent. So the day I got my kids, I had maybe a week's notice. So the first one, she was 14, so I had to do a few things for her. Most of that was just, you know, shopping for clothes and things like that. But the younger one was 2.5 weeks old. And I mean, I had a 14-year-old, but she was pretty much a grown-up when I got her. And at that point, she was gone. She had graduated from high school, and she's on her own now. But the 2.5-week-old, I knew a week before I got her that she was coming. One day I was not a mom, and one day I was.
2.5 weeks old.
Yeah, right out of NICU.
Wow.
But so what I am is what's called a kinship placement. I was fictive kin, which means that I knew the family. I didn't know her mother personally, but I knew her family, and there was no one else to take her. So the family came to me, and they knew that I had been involved in foster care before, and that I was still doing volunteer things here and there. And they asked if I would consider it, and I said, "Can I have the weekend?" So I spent the weekend trying to collect things, and it quickly added up. It's very expensive. I mean, I'm sure anyone who has a child knows, you know, not, like Amy said, not just the crib, multiple other things. And
well, just a car seat is $100.
Correct.
Or more.
Cribs are hundreds of dollars.
You know, and you know, you can't leave the house with the child unless you have the car seat that snaps in and all that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, you're really pushing upstream with nothing.
yeah.
And formula is $20 a can if the child isn't requiring more expensive formula.
Well, wow, I'm just blown away by the immediacy of it. You know, how you go from getting your email and an hour later you're a parent, and you get a call, and you got the weekend to figure out you got a 2.5-week-old. That's just so overwhelming that I'm just like, wow. Just blown away by that. I'm just totally blown away. Now, is this, I know we didn't talk about this before, but is that kind of the norm? Or is that like, are y'all the outliers?
I think
it's pretty normal.
Yeah. Actually, when we were going through our classes, it was kind of a joke. You know, you're going to get a call the same day that you're approved, and sure enough, that happened to us, and that happened to several different people. And it's an ongoing thing. You know, we got those 2 children, and 2 weeks later, we took in another child. So some people go from 0 to 3, some people go 0 to 5 in a week or 2, and wow. It's just you.
Now I have to tell you, my paradigm has been blown away by this because my perception of a foster parent is some older couple, empty nester kind of situation that, you know, they're looking for something to do with their life, you know, and they got a lot of experience and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, we have this conversation and I'm finding out that it's 2, you know, young ladies with no experience, you know, minimal training, thrust into the foster parenting world, and it's just kind of changed my paradigm of the whole thing. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll dive into what y'all did about it. How's that? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Stay with us. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk about the foster village, and we're talking to 2 foster parents and now adoptive parents, and we're going to continue to dive into this whole foster parenting issue. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Our greatest responsibility is caring for God's children. And at any given time in Louisiana, we have over 4,000 children in foster care. But we also have over 4,000 churches.
If every church recruits one family willing to foster one child, and that church family wraps themselves around that foster family in support of that child, we can change the direction of that child's life, their future, and the future of our state.
While not everyone has been called to be a foster parent, we are all called to support those who have. And there are so many ways to lend a helping hand, whether through volunteering our time tutoring, babysitting, providing a new coat for the winter, or helping to pay for Little League or dance lessons.
You don't have to open your home to make a difference in the life of a foster child. You just have to open your heart. One church, one family, one child.
Welcome back to Catholic Life, ordinary people with extraordinary faith. Today we're talking about foster parenting, and talking to Shayna and Amy. And before the break, you just kind of blew me away and changed my paradigm on the whole thing, because like I said, I always thought of foster parents as these empty nesters that were looking to provide a service, and it was done in a more prepared, methodical kind of way, where we're qualified and we're ready and we've got our house ready, and so whenever you get one, you let me know. And what y'all just told me is like this is like a fire drill when this happens, and it's not just older folks, it's y'all who, and it's just changed my whole perspective. And look, I interviewed the First Lady a while back, and I didn't get it from that, because we were talking in broad generalities and stuff like that. And like I was saying before, y'all are on the front line, so that y'all are the ones we needed to have on. So tell me, so you get a call and you have nothing.
Yeah.
Did you have to go buy all that stuff?
When you go through your class, they do expect you to have a crib, just basic things. It kind of focuses on safety, so make sure you have, fire alarms and things
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Your house is
extinguisher.
protected.
That was the word I'm looking for. So we kind of have to go through a list like that, making sure that the home is safe. But as far as, you know, other things that go along with a child, you don't really have to have those on hand. And something to keep in mind too is when you get these children, you're a stranger to them. So going and doing a simple trip to the grocery store can be a little more difficult when there's a child still getting to know you and still trying to understand their circumstance.
Right, right. And so you have a 2.5-week-old and you're going, how do I change a diaper?
Well, luckily I have lots of little brothers, but
But I'm exaggerating.
yeah, but right, no, you're right. And so foster parents qualify for WIC and they qualify for child care assistance, but those things may not kick in right away. So not to mention all the things you have to buy, but also, I don't know if you guys have paid for daycare lately, but it's the size of the house note. I mean, so that's another
Expense.
large expense that you have to consider until the daycare assistance kicks in, which also doesn't cover 100%. So foster parents have to pay out of their pocket. At the end of it, they're almost paying to foster.
Wow. And that's something that, you know, I've heard people say, oh man, a lot of people take in a bunch of kids because they get all that
They
money.
make money,
you know, it's
right.
like it's a money-making thing, and really, that's not what it's all about. Okay, so now that you've kind of blown all of us, the audience and me, away with this whole change in the reality of the fact that who are the parents and who are the kids and how quickly this happens, you guys had a vision. And tell us about how that came about.
Well, another foster mom connected Shayna and I. We had children that were going through something similar. And so one phone conversation, just introducing us, ended up being a 3-hour phone conversation. And we both were kind of doing the same thing out of our homes, just seeing that need for distributing items to parents that needed. Some foster parents will be prepared to take in a teenager, and then they'll take in a 2-year-old or vice versa. And if you don't have that bed or those items, then sometimes that child will have to sleep at the office. And we don't want any child to go without having a long-term home. So we were both collecting items, distributing them, and decided we needed to meet and see what else we could do further about it.
So we had a play date at the Knock Knock Museum around the corner, and the foster village was born. We used social media to find a location. I think we were both kind of just hoping for a central location to get all the things out of our home. I had just gotten married and was about to move to Baton Rouge. So I was selling my home, and my husband said, that is not coming to my house. And she says her attic was about to explode. So having a place to put all these things so we could see what we had, because at some point you get too many things and you can't help anyone because you don't know what you have. So we were hoping for maybe a storage unit or something like that, and a local church stepped up and said, hey, we were praying about what to do with this building, and you can have it. So
that's awesome.
We went and got the keys.
So I guess part of it is inventorying what you have, setting up an inventory so you know what you have so you can deploy it when a need arises, rather than, oh, we need a widget, let's go see if we have a widget. You know?
Sometimes there are days like that.
Yeah, but I mean, part of it is the organizational part of it. Now the other part of it is acquiring the stuff, right?
Yes.
So are you asking people to donate, and if you are, what are you asking them to help you with, and how can they do it? And tell them a little bit how it works.
Yeah, so basically the foster village is set up kind of like a little free boutique for children in foster care and the foster families. So things that we are constantly in need of are beds for the children, playpens we run out of pretty frequently, and then hygiene items.
Okay, let me ask you a question. You said playpen. You're talking about a pack and play.
Pack and
right?
play, right.
Okay. All right. I had to go through this mental gyration with my grandkids because I never ever heard them say playpen, and yet I see these things that I would have called a playpen, and they call them a pack and play.
Yeah.
So that's what you're talking about, right? Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. So we have different ways that people can help out. We also have donation bins that we can put at businesses or churches or any group activity that's going on if there's an event, and we'll assign certain items to that bin or a certain project. We had a church recently that had some bins at their different campuses, and they put together summer activity packets. So everyone donated the items, and they created the packets and donated it to us.
Okay, so what happened at our church recently, and it's just weird how all this stuff fits together. There was an initiative where Father was preaching to the school mass, and he encouraged them to bring stuff in for people that needed it.
Oh, neat.
And they did this whole thing, and when I was telling Father about this interview in advance of coming down, he said, "Oh, we just did that."
Yeah. Nice.
See, so these are open opportunities within our world to help support you by saying, okay, for those parishes with a Catholic school, let's challenge the Catholic school kids to help another kid by bringing something. And some of these parents are pretty well off. They can afford a bed or a pack and play or a car seat or whatever.
And those things can be used. So instead of donating your crib to Goodwill when you're finished with it, you could bring it to us instead and know that it's going to, or any thrift store, and know that it's going to a child in need that otherwise maybe wouldn't have had a place to sleep.
Right.
And the hygiene items, a lot of them come from the dollar store. So we'll have children that'll have their allowance, and they'll go shopping at the dollar store, and they'll come meet us and donate and want to serve and help the kids shop.
It's really sweet.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. So like we have what we call the jambalaya pot, and during Mass, the kids come up and we're trying to teach them tithing. Okay, so what we could possibly do is maybe dedicate that 1 weekend a month or whatever, something like something like that.
Awesome.
Look, this is happening on the fly. I hope the people understand. We didn't figure this out in advance. We're having a conversation, and this is the Holy Spirit working, and that's what this show is all about. So, tell us the things you need. So you said hygiene items.
Yeah. So hygiene items. We stock our local DCFS office, so when the children first come into care, that's their first point of contact. They go to the DCFS office, and the caseworker tries to find them a home. So we stock that closet with hygiene items, so soap, shampoo, conditioner, toothbrush, toothpaste, and we call them hygiene packs. They're in Ziploc bags. So those items are always needed. Specifically for the office, travel size is the best, and then at the foster village, we hand out like the full size ones.
So you also supply the office, the Children Family Service office, so that when the kids are taken out of their home and they go to the office before they get assigned to a foster family, they can get some of the immediate items they're going to need for their personal hygiene.
It normally takes between 1 and 3 days for them to find a long-term placement for a child. So being in the office a lot with the children that I have in care, I've seen kids come in, they're hungry, and if they've been neglected, then they need to be changed and cleaned up. And we've been given the opportunity to be able to help with doing a snack station as well.
Right, we've created a pantry there with ready-to-eat snacks, mac and cheese, things like that, comfort food for the kids, to tide them over until they are placed.
Okay, how long would these items stay there?
I go twice a month, and I restock.
Okay.
We've teamed up with Mighty Moms, so they've been helping bring in SpaghettiOs and the microwavable macaroni and cheese and those types of things.
Wow, and this all happened within a year.
Right. And
This is you guys just did I mean, obviously God's behind this, but you guys did a great job, and it's I mean I'm amazed that these two pretty ladies got together and had this thing happen, and it's manifested itself in a year to as much as y'all have.
We really just dreamed it up, and the community
it's
made
the community.
it happen.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's the community.
There's no way we
it's
would
like
have
we
done it.
say something, and the community is just so excited to help. And just like you guys, it's just one more way for us to get it out there. Because honestly, I tell people all the time, I'm just all I do is network. I just bring people together, coordinate it, because we couldn't do it without the community.
Foster care seems like it was in the shadows of society for so long, so being able to protect the children's privacy, but then also let it be known to the community that they can help the vulnerable in our community has been a wonderful just privilege, I think, for us to witness and be able to team up with complete strangers to make it happen.
This is great.
Sure.
So for those of you that are watching, might I suggest that you take several steps. First of all, tell us how they can get in touch with you.
We have a Facebook page. It can be found at TFV for the Foster Village Walker, all one word, or you can find us at tfvwalker.org.
So you can go to that website, you can connect with them. The other thing is be creative. So like I just pitched out the jambalaya pod at our church. Your church probably has something very similar. You may have a community services director for your parish. You may want to go there because they probably had food distribution and they probably have types of food that you can put in that availability at the office, as you put it. And I know that we are always getting people that want to donate items or they're looking for stuff to do, and here's another one you got to put on your list to make sure that it's in the awareness of what your parish community is doing. It's amazing how when I interviewed the First Lady, I never got any of this sense of the reality, although I got the macro of how big the problem is, 4,500 at any particular minute, blah, 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 blah. Here, it's the reality of on the ground, what happens.
We get to see the faces of the children, and we get to hear the stories of what they've been through, and be able to clean them up and help them on a better road.
Wow.
We also get the joy of seeing them go home or see them adopted. So that we get to see the happy side too. We don't just see like how they are when they come in as broken families. We get to see them complete their families as well. And that's
awesome.
A huge joy.
All I can say is thank you for all you're doing. God bless you. I mean, this has been, I mean, you can tell I'm impacted by this. It's been great to have y'all here, and Shayna and Amy, keep on keeping on. Thank you for all that you're doing. I'm proud of you, and I'm thankful for you. So
we can't do it without the community, so we'd love to have anyone join us and come check us out.
Yeah, and if the church would like to not just donate, but we like hands. So if anyone wants to come for events to help us, or just come work for a serve day at the Foster Village, we will gladly take them.
that's great. So you've been indoctrinated on the Foster Village today, and we hope that you'll help them help others, because that's what being Christ-like is all about. So thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for
And thank you for watching Catholic Life, ordinary people with extraordinary faith, which they certainly have. Till next time, thank you for watching. God bless.